Well, this morning, as we come to Christmas season, we have hit on a theme. Let's get there by asking you this. What is this guy's problem? I'm sorry? I heard a couple different answers. Too laid back. That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one. Pardon me? Slanted view. Yeah. At least we're having a... Pardon me? Not quite up to it? Is that what you said? Upright. Yeah, not straight up, is he? That's okay. What about this one? This girl. You know, it is impossible to have that posture, that position, and still be standing, unless you have something to lean on or someone to lean on. Okay? This morning, I'm bringing this up. Well, let me do this. You know, there's a popular song that is Lean on Me. Bill Withers wrote this. You know this song? Lean on me when you're not strong. Yeah. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Can't you almost hear it while we're doing this? For it won't be long. And he goes on. You just call me. Can you hear it? Call me. We all need someone, I can hardly say it without the melody, to lean on. He goes at this again. Hear the melody. And then brings it to a conclusion. I don't know what happened. We were supposed to play that right there. I just kept shaking my head. Now. I had a point to make to this. There it is.
Me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody.
That's not your imagination. We are playing.
I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody.
Whoa, really getting
to lean
okay, fade it. Thank you. Well, that went really well. Yeah. So the question here is, do you buy it? That we all need someone to lean on. You do. We all need. So the question is then, what are you leaning on? Faith in God. That definitely has a place. We all need someone to lean on. Do we? Now we have to stop and think what this is talking about. Somebody to rely on? Somebody to support us? When we were kids, we obviously did because we were called dependents, right? So you're dependent. You're leaning on somebody. And when you get to adult, do we still? Yeah. So who do you lean on? Lord, she said. How does it show? Where does it come out? This morning, we're going to be talking about something that the Apostle Paul said when he mentioned that he did not shrink back from declaring to you the whole counsel of God. That's been our Christmas season focus. the whole counsel of God. Last week, book of James, the New Testament wisdom of God, which has a whole bunch of counsel. Our D-band yesterday was, we just ran out of time long before we ran out of what to talk about there with the book of James and the counsel of God. You know, one of the things that was said at the D-band, I thought this was great. Gary actually said it. We were talking about your life, what was the most significant achievement in it? What would you say? And he said, I just want my life to count for something. I just don't want it not to make any difference, just to go away and make no difference. That's good. That's exactly what the wisdom of God is about. The whole counsel of God, bringing us that wisdom. Life lived well. So it is significant in time. Forever, it's significant in its time, from its time. The Apostle Paul, when he spoke just before the end of his third missionary journey, I have not shrank back from declaring to you the whole counsel of God. That's what we're launching from this Christmas season. The counsel of God, the wisdom he brings to us for a life well lived. That's been our Through the Bible. This morning, we're going to go to the Old Testament background to this wisdom of God by asking you to turn with me to the book of Proverbs. Old Testament book, Proverbs. Proverbs and Job are the wisdom books of the Old Testament. Ecclesiastes included in that. We're going to focus on Proverbs and Job this morning. It's part of this whole counsel. As a matter of fact, it is that part of the very rich background that James in the New Testament brings to us in that counsel of God. And in Proverbs, asking you to look with me at what this is. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1, it comes, he says, the Proverbs of Solomon. And who was Solomon, by the way? In regards to this rank of people with wisdom, where's he at? He's at the top, God says. He is the wisest of men. Now, it's interesting that we learn from Solomon it's not what you know, but it's what you do with what you know that becomes significant, right? Boy, Solomon teaches that. That was a package of wisdom that comes through how he lived his life. These, initially, are the Proverbs of Solomon. Now, the word proverb means, it means to be like. Proverbs it's like, and he talks about life lived well. And life lived well is like, and that's what he's doing here. He is giving us pictures, snapshots. Well, here, let's pick him up. It goes like this. These, it's like of Proverbs, Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. He gave these, verse 2, to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in what's right, in what's just, in what's equitable. Verse 4, to give prudence, the ability to comprehend this to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young folks, that they can discern and they have a degree of awareness. Let the wise, the one who has already accomplished some, let the wise hear and increase in their learning, and let the one who understands obtain wise counsel or guidance here. to understand it's like proverb, a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. What he means by riddles is that this is something that you have to think about. Like, don't spit in the wind. Okay, you didn't have to think about that very long. You heard that before, right? But these have sayings that cause you to and think about. You have to mull it over like you do a riddle. What's black and white and red all over? Well, lots of things are. Anything you read is. Newspaper is the line, but lots of things are. That's the nature of the proverb here. It's the nature of it. Proverb to be like or is like, life is like, that's what he's talking about. And he's talking about it so we think about it for the purpose of living life well, doing it the best so it's significant in time, forever. That's where he's going. That's what he's doing here. Proverbs. And these proverbs are about leaning. Leaning. And there's options here. As a matter of fact, there are two options. And these are the only two options. These are the only two options you have. These are the only two options that I have. But you will take one of these options because we've got to. You know, if we're going to live this life, and we are, by the way, none of us here chose to be born. Did you? Did you sit down before you were born with someone and counsel with them and say, yeah, I'll be born? Sure, put me in on that. I'll put my hat in the ring. Did you do that? None of us. But we are here. And we are living it. And we might just as well make the best of it. That's what God's wisdom about. That's what his whole counsel brings us to. The whole counsel of God. The wisdom of God. And to live it well, it's like Proverbs. Question is, where are you going here? Oh, that's weird. Where are you going with it? Here. I messed up the sentence, okay? It's supposed to read, I think it's in the printout. Where are you going with here? Huh. It's messed up in the printout too. Where are you going with this here? Okay. This is going well. Make the best of it. I didn't plan it. It's sure coming out this way. Where are you going with this here? What? The lean options. I'm going to take you to a passage in Proverbs that well sums up this whole thing that he gives us in Proverbs. I want you to turn to Proverbs chapter 3, where he talks about this thing of leaning on it. There's two options. Proverbs chapter 3. Verse 5 of Proverbs 3 puts out the options. Option 1, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean on him. Rely on him. Put your dependence for support on him. Trust in the Lord with all your heart And here's the second option. Lean not on your own understanding. That is an option. To lean on your own understanding. Otherwise, he would not have said it to us. Don't do it. Because it is an option to lean on the way you see it, the way I comprehend it. And these are the two options that we have: to trust in the Lord with all our heart, or to lean on our own understanding. To put your dependence, your reliance, your grasp for support on the way you see it. Is that really an option? Let me tell you, it is the most popular of these two options. It is the most popular. So, having stated the two options, let's explore these a little bit. Option 1, trust in the Lord. Each one of these options has an in and it has an out. Option 1, the in, refers to an investment. Every one of these options has an investment on your part. Something you throw in. Throw your hat in the ring. Choose to put yourself in on. There's an in. Are you in? Where are you going with this? Maybe that's what I meant. I don't know. Where are you going with this here? There's an in. And there's also an out. We'll get to the out. We're going to talk about the in first. Option 1, trust in the Lord. The in is that you trust in the Lord. And a little while later, he gives us the rest of this. What this means. You see, this is equal to, he says, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6, in all your ways acknowledge him. That's the in. You trust in the Lord. And by the way, when he refers here to trust, this thing of rely on and trust yourself to, lean on, notice that he becomes very specific here. He says, the Lord. And he uses the name for our Creator, for our Sustainer. He uses the name for our Sovereign, who is both the beginning and the end, and all in between. He uses the name that is the most personal name that God gave. It's the name Yahweh. Have you heard it before? Yahweh. Yahweh. It's the name that was used in Exodus 3:14 when he says, say this with me, I am who I am. Tell them I am. That's the name. He is identifying to Moses who he is by his most personal name. I am who I am. And he said it to Moses when Moses was at a quandary here as to who do I tell them sent me? And he said, tell them I am who I am. I am has sent me to you. I am what? I am always and forever what you need. Always. That's what that personal name is going after. I am always and forever what you need. Oh, and I just need a drink of water. No, you need I am. I am really hungry. I need to get... No, you need I am. Above everything. You need I am. Because without I am, there's nothing. trust in I am with all your heart. Trust there. Rely on. Entrust yourself to. Lean on I am. And not on your own understanding, he says. In all your ways, acknowledge him. You know, last week we talked about getting God's wisdom, very necessary, because he makes it available through prayer. But that's not the sum total. He has made his ways known to us. He has told us his thoughts on a matter. And when we acknowledge him, we think. Sometimes I need to investigate. Sometimes I need to act. Sometimes I need to search to find out what his thoughts are on this particular thing. What his way is that I should follow. Because he has told us this. That's 2 Peter rather than 1, sorry. That's 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. He has given us everything we need for life. And a life that goes with him. For life and godliness through his exceedingly great and precious promises. So that through these we come partakers with him of his divine nature. You see what else it takes? Prayer. That's essential. You've got to stay in touch. You've got to be talking to him. But don't talk to him so much that you don't hear him. Because if you're always doing the talking, whose idea is going here? What am I saying? Don't pray? Absolutely not. I'm saying pray is not the only avenue he's given us for acknowledging him. You've got to hear him. How do you do with this? This is leaning on him. This is trusting in the Lord. How do you do with this? How does your week go? Are you pretty well caught up in what you're doing and your thoughts and your ideas? Or is there any time when you're getting a clear sounding input? Well, hopefully here. Hopefully here. Is this the sum total of it? If it is, you're starving. Because it's not sufficient diet. You know, one of the things they do in medicine is they evaluate a case. I hear this over and over. They'll talk about being well-nourished. I hear that over and over. Well-nourished and, well-nourished and. If this is your only diet, you're not well-nourished. You're deficient in a diet. Acknowledge him in all your ways. That's the investment that it takes. That's the in of it. And it's with all your heart. Question. Somebody says this to you. You are my best friend, and I mean that with all my heart. Or this is my favorite. I say that with all my heart. What are they saying? What are they trying to get across to you? Okay, I'm into this. Genuine. Sincere. I'm completely jumping in here? That's what he's saying. It's not rocket science. It's, you're in genuine. I'm putting myself here in this complete. It's with all my heart. Trust there. Lean there with all your heart. If you've got an excuse as to why you can't get the Lord's input here, I want you to know it's not with all your heart. It's not. You're saying it, but it's not genuine. That's not complete. You're not throwing yourself. Your hat's not in the ring. You're acknowledging him in all his ways. That input is coming. You'll find a way. For me, sometimes it's between heading out the door and right there at breakfast time. Get the input. And then at night, I'm going to hear his voice, talking, but hearing his voice. Genuine. Now, there is an outcome to this. Okay? The outcome is, look at the verse. He tells us. The end of verse 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, verse 5. Don't lean on your own understanding, that's the option. In all your ways acknowledge him, that's what this trusting is. And he will make straight your paths. What is that talking about? Straight paths means that there is a way that he's making so that it's smooth, there's pleasant, there's success here. Smooth, successful, and pleasant. That's what he was referring to. This is the outcome. As a matter of fact, this Proverbs is stated as a before and after proverb. The before thing is your investment. The after thing is the outcome that he brings. And this is the outcome for your path in life. He will make it smoother. You mean I'm always going to have clear sailing? Absolutely not. Because guess what? You wouldn't know a clear, smooth path if it was always a clear, smooth path. You acknowledge him, and it smooths. It's much more pleasant. Has success. It has success. It has its significance that way. I want you to listen to, this is Chuck Swindoll. He's got a little booklet on perfect trust. And he talks about this thing that he calls the after. The before, invest. The after, the outcome. He says the after. Now, the after part, he will make your path straight. The word straight means smooth. God will smooth out your path. He will take away the obstacles. He will take care of those barriers when you come to them. And if you'll do your part, the input, give him the steering wheel, the investment, and trust him to be in charge, he promises to make the path smooth. It's a proverb. Outcome. 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 He gives us some very specific counsel on acknowledging him, on trusting him. As a matter of fact, here, I'd like you to slide back in Proverbs. You're in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3. Slide back to Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 30, where he talks about some of the specifics of this wise counsel for our to acknowledge. Look what he says here. He's talking to these folks, and he's talking about the wisdom that God has calling in the straight. It's a very interesting picture. And he says, verse 30, you would have none of my counsel and despised all my reproof. Therefore, those who do that, shall eat the fruit of their way and have their fill of their own devices. If you're always concocting some scheme to make it go, you're just going to get sick and tired of that. It's just going to eventually... It's enough. It's what he's saying here about his counsel. And he gives us certain wise counsel. I put some up here just so you can get a feel for this thing about acknowledging him in all your way. I like this one. If you've been foolish in exalting yourself, what does that mean? Oh, you're pushing your idea, and 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 you're pushing your idea in the family, and you're pushing your idea in the church, and you're pushing your idea because your ideas are also fired good and right. And if you've been foolish in exalting yourself, or if you have devised evil, let's just make them feel a little bit like we do, something that harmful. Put your hand to your mouth. Just, sometimes in our counseling, we get really deep because we talk about something that has been foolish, something that's been harmful, hurtful in your family, and this is what I tell them to do. Just do this. That's pretty deep, isn't it? It's wisdom to get you to stop and go in a different direction. Just sometimes I say, especially if they're a kid at school, I'll tell them, you don't have to look like a dork when you do it. You could do it. And I do that. Okay? Because I'm not here to make them look like a dork. I'm here to help them acknowledge him in their way. So it helps. My wife introduced this in our family when the kids were, I bet all the kids could remember her having them sit there with their hands on their mouth. Just like that. Because it helps us. When that hand comes up and touches my mouth, it helps me to think about acknowledging him in all way. Because it's kind of up in your face, Helpful. And that's the kind of thing that he's giving us about acknowledging his way. Here's another one. This one's good. Anxiety in the heart. Anxiety calls for Xanax. Right? It's the solution. The solution. I want you to know Xanax was never the permanent fix. It's a mask. Anxiety in the heart causes depression. We thought we came up with this clinical diagnosis. Depression. This is God from Proverbs and Solomon. That was a while ago. This is the rich background. Where's anxiety? Or where's depression come from? It comes from anxiety. It comes from anxiety in the heart. And boy, what a solution this is to go after handling anxiety. This depression can be addressed with the good words that God has given on this. And I'll tell you, when we address anxiety with God's words and they grasp it, it comes up. It makes the heart glad. As a matter of fact, you can learn to do this yourself. And a lot of times, Xanax can go out the window. Well, don't throw it out the window because it's a controlled substance, okay? There's some other section. I want you to see these. We're just going to enjoy his wisdom. But now remember this. There is a potency to this wisdom of his. I mean, it's to be enjoyed. It's like, but it's got a kick to it sometimes because you're not leaning on his understanding. You're leaning on your own. And that's why it gets the kick sometimes. Okay, so I said that nicely, right? Did I say that nicely? Maybe I need to do it again and say it nicely. Has a stinger because sometimes you think differently. Your own idea. And therefore, it pinches you. Better? Okay, forget it. Proverbs 18. Here we go. Look at some of these with me. Proverbs chapter 18. We're going to look at verse 1 here. Proverbs 18, 1. Okay? It says this. Proverbs 18, 1. Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. I'd just rather be by myself. I'd just rather do it by myself. I do it best. You know, I'm a solo player. I do it best by myself. Okay? I really don't. Okay, isolate yourself. Here's what you're going. The only thing that you're really going after is what you think about what you want, and it's your own desire. And this is the outcome to that. And he rails against all sound judgment. Somebody comes along with a different idea and shoot them down. Isolate yourself. It's not good for man to be alone. It's not good. We need iron sharpening iron. Somebody come along and say, hey, you know, that's not such a good idea. And why that's not such a good idea? I like that idea. I've done this. We've never done it any other way. There is no other way. We need this. We need this. A fool, verse 2. By the way, this was memorized by some of the guys in our D band last week as we were talking about the wisdom of God here. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his own opinion. That's fun, isn't it? Okay. Let's go down to verse 8. The words of a whisperer. This is like, hey, did you hear that? Did you know that? The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the innermost parts of the body. It's like, oh, that was so good. What's he talking about? Yeah, gossip, dissing somebody else, and man, I'm really into that. And okay, let's go on here. We're having fun. Verse 13. If one gives an answer before he hears it, this is like, I don't have time to hear what you're saying. Let me just bottom line you on this. Bingo, here we go. I wonder whoever does that. It's folly and shame. My wife's laughing. I wonder why. Verse 24. Let's just wrap this up. Quickly. I told you this is a stinger, okay? A man of many companions may come to... Actually, this one is really good because the literal translation of this is, he who has friends must himself be broken. If you're going to have friends, it can't be all about you. It's got to be taking an interest in them. Breaking yourself like a horse gets broken. So it's not always about what they want. It's about the rider. And there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Pretty good stuff, isn't it? It's his wisdom. It's the counsel of God. And it's as an outcome. You acknowledge it when you're in with all your heart. Smooth, pleasant, successful. Okay, there's option 2 here. And option 2 goes like this: leaning on your own understanding. Now he says it here, going back to chapter 3. He says it, don't lean on your own understanding, because it is an option to lean on your understanding. Like I said, it is the most popular option. And what he is talking about, because he helps us in this proverb to see what he's driving at, he explains it a little bit better in verse 7. He says this: be not wise in your own eyes. I was reading a scholar on this, and he said this verse 7 is directly connected to this lean not on your own understanding, because he's explaining that. Being wise in your own eyes. The way I see it. The way I see it. Here's the investment. The investment here, the in of this, is not trusting, not leaning on the way I see it. Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? I've got to make decisions. You do have to make decisions. I've got to evaluate. You do have to evaluate. You do. Somebody called me this week and they said that as a believer, they have been accused of judging others, and believers aren't to judge. And so we talked a little bit. I hear that often. Yeah, we judge not according to appearance, but we judge righteous judgment, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to us. Therefore, we can evaluate what he says and how this compares to what he says. Amen? Amen? We can do that. That is not judging according to appearance. That is judging like he has rightly already judged. And we do that. We need to do that. We're called to do that. We're called to discern, and that's what this is. It's discerning. It's looking at that and making that judgment. The investment is not to disregard how he sees it and just call it the way you see it. That's what he's talking about. He says that's option 2. And by the way, did I tell you that's the most popular one? Did I tell you that? Yeah, I did. Because it is. It is. Even for us as believers, okay, for me too. I go here so readily. The investment is not leaning on the way I see it. You know, there were conflicts sometimes. Let's just do this. Here's one that I'm good at. Let's say I make a mistake. Made a mistake this week. I opened up somebody's schedule an hour before they arrived. That's a problem, right? You got folks arriving to see this person who hasn't arrived and doesn't arrive for an hour. That's a mistake. Big mistake. People's schedules. Made a mistake. Make a mistake. Here's the way I see it. If I do this and this, I can kind of cover up this mistake. Okay? So that I can blame somebody else for this mistake. So I can maneuver around and not be the person in the hot seat. You know, the cooked goose for this mistake. So the way I see it, if I just say this and this and this, and you know, I'm pretty good at that. To try and get myself covered. But then you get this proverb that says, he who covers his sins, which are missing the mark, will not prosper. So, what do I do here? What do I do here? Well, I'll just lie a little bit and get out. I tell you, that's seeing it with your own eyes, and that's not going to prosper. Are you with me on this? And we're good at it because we're fallen. He says, that's option number 2. It's the most popular way. Don't go there. Don't go there. I've had believers who have figured out that if they, with these kids that they had, the government would pay this and this, and if they didn't get married but live together, they would get all this stuff paid for. So, hey, let's do that. I want you to know that that is seeing it the way you see it. And it's wiser to go with him. Amen? But the money, no, you're not seeing the difference in the dollars. Oh, well, that's right. Life is dollars. Oh, no, your life is more than what a man possesses, even when he has abundance. Right? This is life lived best. This is it. So, investing not in the way you see it, investing in the fear of the Lord, a respect for him, an apprehension that says, you know who this creator and sustainer of my life is, and if I go contrary to life, a fear for him and a turning from the hurt. That's the investment. That's the decision. And the outcome is so super clear. He uses it in words, but it's like crystal clear. It's healing and it's refreshment, he says. He says it's healing. I want you to get this because this isn't so clear, but I think it is so neat the way he said this. Okay. He says it's healing to your navel. He's talking about the place where the umbilical cord was attached. That's what it uses in the very lexicon. The umbilical cord. This is healing to the core of it. Have you ever noticed? Okay, this is gross. We shouldn't talk about it in church, but I'm going to because the Bible refers to the place your umbilical cord was attached, which is your navel, right? That's why you got a belly button. That's why. Did Adam have a belly button? Ask God. I don't know. The Bible doesn't tell me. He didn't need one. But he did have a core to his being. Here's the gross thing. Have you ever put your finger in your belly button? And when you do that, it feels like you're at the center of your being. Have you noticed that? You were nourished right there, And when he's talking about this, he's talking about the injury to the core of your being healed. That's the outcome that he's talking about. The injury to the core of your being is healed by this. Wow. And, he says, it's refreshment. The word is moisture, and it refers to the marrow of your bones. Do you know what happens to your bones if you don't have marrow? They don't develop, they don't live. That's where the life is. It's the marrow to your bones. It's the marrow that gives structure to your life. Can you imagine what we would look like if we didn't have a skeleton? Yeah, because the skeleton is our infrastructure. Okay? We'd just be a pile of organs in a puddle, and blink, blink, blink. And we wouldn't go anywhere. We wouldn't do anything because we have to have the infrastructure to the way this thing is designed. This is refreshment to your infrastructure, to the whole structure of your life. That's what he's saying here. And that's the outcome. And do we need this? We need this. This is the options that we have. I'm just going to talk about Job in passing. Because Proverbs is God's counsel for living well in the normal course of life. And the normal course of life sometimes involves some pretty hard things, doesn't it? Have you ever noticed how hard things were going for Job? Have you ever noticed that? And here is a guy who is attempting to do it right. And you remember all of his wealth and all of his kids and his wife. Why don't you just go die? That's not good counsel. I mean, he's sitting out in a pile of garbage, scraping himself with a broken piece of, flower pots, those red things. That's what he's using, a broken piece of flower pot, scraping the scores on his skin, because they're all over. And she, why don't you just go die? I would suggest to you that when we have hard things that come, we haven't got to Job's level yet. Am I wrong? Have you gotten to Job, lost your entire family, lost your entire fortune, lost your physical health, and you're sitting out in a garbage pot? None of your friends are around. Well, those are friends around. They come around and they're going to tell you, Job, you're really into sin because this couldn't happen without this. Job is about trusting God, even when it's hard, even when it's difficult. Job has this struggle the way he sees it, and he goes round and round. He even goes round with God on this. At least Job was wise enough to know that he was struggling with God when he was playing these games. And in chapters 39 through 48 or 42, it's just like God comes to him and he says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own. And he does it like this. Hey, Job, come here. I want to talk to you. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Where were you when I set this thing up to run? And Job finally says this. He does this. I wonder why I did that. Been foolish and exalting yourself. He puts his hand to his mouth. And God says, oh, no, not yet. A couple other things here. A couple other things. And Job says this. I repent. I change my mind. I change my direction. I'm in with you. And the result of that thing, you read it. Job chapter 42. Wow! He will make straight your path. He will smooth. He will succeed. He will bring pleasant success. I want you to know this is about choosing Christ. That's what it's about. Father in heaven, we come to you because we are so needy of the wise counsel, the whole counsel of God. Let us not be so wise in our own eyes that we protect ourselves and defend ourselves and fight for this. And, oh Lord, we call it perfectionistic, protectionistic. This is protecting ourselves. Rather, let us trust in the Lord. Lean not on our own understanding. Run to Christ. In His name I pray.